Forget the cinematic showdown at high noon, the honorable lawman standing tall in the dust, and the rugged cowboy riding into the sunset. The American frontier has been sold to you as a theater of rugged individualism, a proving ground where fair fights settled disputes and the good guys always drew faster. That is a lie manufactured by dime novels and Hollywood studios. The reality of the Texas frontier was a meat grinder of cowardly ambushes, rampant disease, and unrelenting filth. We are going to strip away the romantic varnish of the Wild West and drag you into the brutal, suffocating reality of what it actually took to survive. It is August 1,883 inches, El Paso, Texas. Railroads have just connected this border outpost to the rest of the continent, transforming it overnight into a booming epicenter of transient laborers, desperate outlaws, and unregulated vice. It is known across the country as the six-shooter capital. You are not a hero here. You are just another fragile body stepping off a train into a town that views human life as its cheapest commodity. Keep your head down and your mouth shut, because in this town, the dead do not get a fair trial. The first thing that hits you when you step onto the dirt streets of El Paso is the suffocating stench. It is a physical wall of odor. You are breathing in a vaporized mixture of horse urine, decaying animal carcasses, and human excrement baking in 105-degree heat. There is no plumbing. There is no waste management. Streets are deep, unpaved trenches of pulverized alkali dust that turn into knee-deep, sucking mud traps the moment a thunderstorm breaks. When the wind howls through the valley, this dust coats the inside of your throat, your lungs, and your eyes. It is gritty, alkaline, and laced with dried fecal matter from the thousands of livestock driven through the center of town. You walk along the elevated wooden boardwalks, desperate to keep your boots out of the muck. These boardwalks are not charming architectural features. They are necessary defenses against a street level that functions as an open sewer. Beneath these wooden planks lies a thriving ecosystem of rats, feral dogs, and venomous scorpions seeking refuge from the blistering sun. Slaughterhouses dump their offal directly into the nearby Rio Grande or leave it to rot in the alleys behind the saloons. The air vibrates with the sound of millions of black flies swarming the blood-soaked dirt. The water you drink is pulled from shallow wells contaminated by the very outhouses sitting 20 feet away. Every time you lift a tin cup to your lips, you are playing a game of chance with dysentery and cholera. The infrastructure of this boomtown is a hastily assembled illusion, built entirely out of green lumber and canvas tents, ready to burn to the ground at the drop of a kerosene lantern. You seek shelter inside a saloon, but the environment offers no reprieve. The room is a dim, sweltering box smelling of stale beer, unwashed bodies, and cheap cigar smoke. Sawdust covers the floor to absorb the constant streams of chewing, tobacco spit, spilled liquor, and fresh blood. Men do not fight fair here. There are no honorable duels in the street. If someone wants you dead, they do not challenge you to a quick-draw contest. They wait until you are drunk, distracted, or walking out of a brothel, and they shoot you in the back of the head with a 10-gauge shotgun. A disagreement over a spilled drink does not end with a fistfight. It ends with a Bowie knife driven into your kidneys before you even realize you have been attacked. The violence is fast, unceremonious, and instantly lethal. You realize very quickly that your survival depends entirely on hypervigilance. But the men carrying concealed revolvers in this sweltering room are not the only things waiting to kill you in the dark. The creature scratching beneath the floorboards of your room is not a rat, but a rabid skunk whose single bite guarantees a slow, mind-shattering death over the next 14 days. Maintaining any standard of personal hygiene in 1883 Texas is physically impossible. You wear wool and heavy canvas in the desert heat, sweating constantly, your clothes stiffening with salt, dirt, and animal grease. Bathing is a luxury you can rarely afford. When you do pay for a bath at the local barber shop, you are soaking in a galvanized tin tub filled with lukewarm, opaque water that has already been used by half a dozen other men that day. You share the water with their dead skin, their sweat, and the lice that abandon their bodies. You sleep in crowded boarding houses where 3 strangers share a single, sweat-stained mattress. You wake up with your skin crawling, covered in red welts from the bedbugs and fleas that infest the straw ticking. Your diet is a daily assault on your digestive system. You eat beans cooked in rancid lard, and beef that has been heavily salted and buried under thick layers of chili peppers to mask the taste of rot. Canned peaches and tomatoes you buy at the mercantile are sealed with heavy lead solder, slowly leaching neurotoxins into your bloodstream with every meal. You suffer from chronic indigestion, persistent diarrhea, and borderline scurvy. If you work out on the ranges surrounding the town, your body is subjected to relentless punishment. The life of a cowboy is not a romantic adventure. It is grueling, low-wage, industrial labor performed on horseback. You ride for 14 hours a day, developing open, weeping saddle sores that adhere to your rough trousers. You are constantly at risk of being crushed by a panicked steer or having your ribs shattered by the kick of an unbroken horse. When your body inevitably breaks, the medical reality of 1,883 waits for you. There are no antibiotics. There is no sterilization. If you suffer a compound fracture from a fall, the bone breaking through your skin is an immediate death sentence. The local doctor operates out of a dusty back room, wearing a blood-stiffened apron. If you get caught in the newly strung barbed wire fences slicing across the Texas plains, the rusted iron tears deep, jagged trenches into your flesh. The wound seals over, trapping the tetanus bacteria inside. Within days, your jaw locks shut. Your spine arches so violently your own muscles tear themselves off the bone. When the doctor decides your shattered leg needs to come off, there is no clean operating theater. You are held down by 3 men on a wooden table. You are given a mouthful of cheap whiskey and a piece of leather to bite on. The doctor uses a bone saw that was just used on another patient, unwashed, coated in dried marrow. The amputation takes 3 agonizing minutes. You feel the teeth of the saw catching on your femur. Even if you survive the shock and the blood loss, your chances of surviving the inevitable post-operative infection are less than 50%. You will spend the next 2 weeks lying in a sweltering room, watching your stump turn black, smelling your own flesh putrefy while you pray for the fever to take you. If you seek relief from the local apothecary, you are handed patent medicines loaded with raw opium, cocaine, and grain alcohol. These do not cure your dysentery or the advanced syphilis eating away your neurological system. They simply drug you into a stupor while your organs fail. The graveyard at the edge of town is filled with men who died screaming from infections a modern child would brush off with a bandage. You assume the man wearing the tin star on your street is here to protect you, but the town marshal is just the most successful local extortionist operating under a badge. The single greatest myth of the American West is the incorruptible lawman. You have been taught to revere the frontier sheriff as a paragon of justice, standing alone against the forces of chaos. In 1883 Texas, the badge is a business venture. The men pinning tin stars to their vests are frequently saloon owners, pimps, and professional gamblers who use the authority of the law to eliminate their business rivals. They do not arrest you for disturbing the peace. They pistol whip you in the alley, empty your pockets, and leave you bleeding in the mud. The law in this town is not a shield for the innocent. It is a weapon wielded by whoever has the most money and the fewest moral hesitations. If you are a person of color in this environment, the badge is not just corrupt, it is an instrument of absolute, unchecked terror. Historical records confirm that nearly a third of all cowboys driving cattle through Texas during this era were black or Mexican. If you are a black freedman or a Tejano vaquero riding into this town, your survival requires a terrifying level of situational awareness. You are paid less for the same bone-breaking labor. You are barred from the very saloons and hotels your money keeps in business, and your life holds no legal value. If you are a black cowboy, you spend weeks on the trail eating the dust of the herd, entrusted with the most dangerous horses and the hardest night watches. But the moment you cross the city limits of El Paso to spend your wages, you are stripped of your humanity. You are forced to step off the wooden boardwalk into the mud to let white men pass. You keep your eyes averted, calculating the mood of every armed man you walk past, knowing that a single misunderstood glance will end with a bullet in your spine. There is no court that will convict your murderer. When you walk down the street, you are acutely aware that any white man can provoke a fatal confrontation with you and face zero legal consequences. You cannot simply defend yourself. If you draw a weapon to stop a drunk, aggressive white rancher from attacking you, you are instantly branded an outlaw. Local papers will not report that you fought for your life. They will report that a savage uprising was put down. You know that the local deputized mob is always looking for an excuse to string a rope over the nearest cottonwood tree. The threat of lynching hangs in the air as heavily as the alkali dust. You watch as Texas Rangers operate as a paramilitary death squad. If you are Mexican-American living on land your family has held for generations, you watch the Rangers ride onto your property to enforce fraudulent land claims for white syndicates. If you resist, you are shot under the guise of resisting arrest. Your body is left in the brush as a warning. You understand, with chilling clarity, that the state apparatus is not broken. It is functioning exactly as designed. The violence of this era is not random. It is structural. The romanticized gunfights are a distraction from the true slaughter. The bodies piling up in the streets and the shallow graves outside of town are not the tragic casualties of honorable men settling disputes. They are the results of a society that prioritizes rapid capital extraction over human life. You are entirely disposable. Railroad companies, cattle barons, and corrupt municipal governments view your sudden death from a shotgun blast, cholera, or a lynch mob as an acceptable cost of doing business. You are fuel for the frontier engine, destined to be burned up and forgotten in the dirt. You can step out of the dirt now. The next time you walk into a sterile, brightly lit hospital emergency room to get a routine tetanus booster, or when you turn on your kitchen tap and drink a glass of water without a second thought, think about the men and women who died in agony simply because they were born in the wrong century. When you swallow an antibiotic pill for a minor infection, remember the man strapped to a wooden table, feeling the teeth of an unwashed saw cut through his femur. When you see a modern courtroom, remember the era when the badge was simply a license for state-sanctioned murder. The modern world you inhabit is built on a foundation of unimaginable suffering and early death. The paved asphalt street outside your house covers the alkali dust, but the dirt is still there, waiting. The frontier was not tamed by men with quick-draw revolvers. It was tamed by sanitation, antibiotics, and the agonizingly slow construction of actual civil rights. The myth of the Wild West survives only because the dead cannot speak to correct the record. There is no glory in the dirt. Tell me in the comments which historical era we need to dismantle next. Subscribe to the channel, and do not let the myths survive.